Smithsonian-related interaction with non-U.S. persons. What do I need to know about deemed exports? When interacting with non-U.S. persons or entities, it's important to consider certain federal and international regulations controlling the transfer of information related to sensitive technology to ensure that the Smithsonian is in compliance. Sharing information or providing access to sensitive technology subject to export regulations with a non-U.S. person when that transfer occurs in the United States is known as a deemed export. Sharing can be as simple as foreign nationals viewing schematics, participating in a design review meeting restricted from non-U.S. persons, or having computer access to a network with export-controlled files. Persons in the U.S. as permanent residents are considered U.S. persons. However, non-U.S. persons of some nationalities are prohibited from receiving a license for controlled technologies, and U.S. Customs and Border Protection reviews student and work visas to enforce the rules. Deemed exports are regulated just like exports of physical items. Similarly, they are subject to penalties for non-compliance. Interactions resulting in unauthorized deemed exports can be more difficult to spot. As a researcher, it's important for you to be vigilant about deemed exports and understand the basics for how to comply with these regulations. But how do you know when your work involves deemed exports? If you're working with export-controlled technology and interact with non-U.S. persons, you will likely need a license. The Export Administration Regulations, or EAR, include a list of export-controlled items, called the Commerce Control List, or CCL. If your research involves an item on this list and you will be interacting with non-U.S. persons, contact export@si.edu right away. In addition, the names of non-U.S. persons working must be cross-checked with the Denied Persons List, accessible from the Export Controls website. All non-U.S. collaborators and entities must be screened against this list, even if your research does not involve controlled technologies. Items that have a dual-use military application may also require a license. The International Traffic in Arms Regulations, or ITAR, contains a list of these items, also available through the Export Controls website. Just a few examples of Smithsonian activities that may require a deemed export license. Training Syrian parties about how to use infrared cameras, spectrometry, and drones to preserve cultural heritage sites at risk due to civil war. Hiring of a non-U.S. student to conduct work on telescope instrumentation. Presenting about optics at a design review meeting attended by non-U.S. collaborators. Teaching how to prevent transmission of pathogens between species to non-U.S. researchers. These are just some deemed export examples that might require a license if the information is not published widely. Collect as much information as possible about non-U.S. collaborators and review the list to determine if and where your items fall on the export control lists. Contact the export compliance officer early to determine if your work meets the definition of deemed exports by emailing export@si.edu. If your work does require a license, the export compliance officer will apply for one. Remember, if your work involves non-U.S. persons or entities and export-controlled items and technology, or items with a dual-use military purpose, contact the Export Compliance Officer at export@si.edu or call 617-496-7557 for more information. If you have questions about deemed exports, you can read more in Smithsonian Directive 611 or on the Export Controls website.